Grand existence, citizens of the universe. I'm Nicholas Jensen Denton, creator of JD's Pharmacopoeia. Today is Sunday, April 23rd, 2023. Got a little choir music going in the background. I'm going to turn that down a little bit. The choir is fire. That's what I like to say. I brought you in here today so that I can subliminally flash Illuminati hand symbols at you and maybe start a new conspiracy theory. Just kidding. I'm here today to talk to you about the answer to life, the universe, wisdom, knowledge, truth, eternal life, immortality, and more. But before we get there, I really just as like a practice run, because I've been having a lot of trouble with this here microphone, with this here digital technology. I like to just read. I'd like to read some great literature for you. And I need to reopen all my tabs that were previously open. Reopen all windows from last session. Where'd you go? Alright, so I'm gonna put myself down here. Whoa! Infinity! Okay. Not that one. I love Raymond Lull though. Indra. I'm gonna close this one. Yeah. Blah 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 blah. Paraphrase of Shen. The Secret Book of James, I think, is really the one I'm looking for, actually. Or no, it's this. The Secret Book of John. God, I love this book. So I believe I'm in the prologue, actually. Alright. Here goes the Gnostic literature. Look, if you are not familiar with the Gnostic literature, this piece right here is a wonderful it's a wonderful piece of literature, okay? And I would like to read it. It is the Secret Book of James. They call it the teaching of the Savior, the revelation of the mysteries hidden in silence, those things that he taught to John, his disciple. So, where can I start? Here we are. One day, John, this is my reading and commentary, so get excited. Did I say it already who I was? Grand, great, golden existence. I'm JD, creator of the Pharmacopoeia. Real name Nicholas Jensen Denton. JD's just a stage name, but call me whatever the fuck you like, because what are these titles? You can't put a name on me. All right, let's look at this. Let's break down the nature of God, the nature of personal revelation, and how us normal human beings can actually come to know the Most High personally, despite what they want to have you believe. You're always going to find somebody, some part of the priestcraft, some Doubting Thomas, some fools, basically. They're going to tell you, you can't know, you cannot retain the vision, you're not worthy. Well, to them I say, get fucking educated, man. Get learned, okay? Learned. Prologue. One day, John, we're about to get learned. The brother of James. These are the sons of Zebedee, I don't know. Was going to the temple, the brother of James, aka John. A Pharisee by the name of Artemanios came up to him and challenged him, asking, "Where is the teacher you used to follow?" John replied, "He has gone back to the place from which he came. The Pharisee said, "That Nazarene misled you all. He told you lies. He closed your hearts and turned you away from your ancestral traditions." And when I heard these things, I, John, turned away from the temple and went off into the deserted mountainous place. I was very unhappy, saying to myself, how was this Savior designated? Why did his Father send him into the world? Who is his Father? What kind of realm will we go to? For although he told us this realm is modeled on the imperishable realm, he didn't teach us about the latter. Now, hold on one sec, because this is all very relatable feelings that John here is having. You know, we all stumble across these very simplistic messages about ultimate reality that it's so easy to get caught up on when somebody comes in with their words and cuts up your mind like a little cookie cutter, cookie dough, like thing. Okay? Words are like blocks, which move through the mind, which is a curve. And you can just kind of visualize a block inside of a circle, like tumbling around. You're never going to get a perfect fit. You can only get certain points of the geometry within the sphere that is the mind. Okay, so words are inherently almost useless. Words are really something to help you see beyond words, because it's not the words themselves that have meaning, it's the order of them, the space in between them, and what is not being said, what is left out. Words are exclusionary devices, okay? And we need to learn to not confuse the map, which is language, for the terrain, which is reality, and to see past the words into the meaning and the significance of what is being said. Because as it says in the other books, the gods have come down and confused man with language. If everything comes from one thing, everything that can be said is really only saying one thing. What is that thing? All of a sudden, while I was contemplating these things, behold, the heavens opened and the whole of creation shone with a light from above, and the world quaked. I was afraid, yet behold, a little child appeared before me in the light. I continued looking at him as he became an old man, and then he changed again, becoming like a young man. And I did not understand what I was seeing, but the one likeness had several forms in the light, and those likenesses appeared each through the other, and the vision had three forms. Okay, so John is scared, and what he was doing was he was alone. He was earnestly asking his self, his creator, his conscience, the questions that he doesn't know. And the thing about these mystical books is that that's pretty much how they all start. Especially, I mean, now you don't even gotta be mystical. All these stories about people communicating with God, it starts out with a man earnestly asking questions his creator, praying in his, place of rest, meditating on the verge of sleep or in sleep. This is how these things start. And those are things that you can do, so why doubt yourself? John was scared. He's asking the questions, and then through some sort of miraculous event, transpiration, transcendence, the world started to quake, light started to shine from above. He didn't understand what he was seeing. He saw something, a child who grew into a man, changed again like a young child into a child, and realized that this is one entity that is appearing as multiple different entities, things, forms, okay? What we're seeing is sort of like a psychedelic vision, it seems. The form began to talk. He said to me, John, why doubt? Why be afraid? Don't you know this image? Be not afraid. I am with you always. I am the Father, the Mother, the Son. I am the incorruptible purity. I have come to teach you about what is, what was, and what will be, in order for you to understand the invisible world and the world that is visible, and the immovable race of perfect humanity. That's my favorite quote in this whole thing. I have come to teach you about what is, what was, and what will be. And the fact that this entity, which is the incorruptible purity, is always with us. I feel like one of the greatest stumbling blocks in my spiritual pursuit was internalizing the world and realizing that in truth, this whole thing is kind of a perception of my mind, and that my mind is my mind, and I can change, reprogram my own mind to perceive reality differently and perhaps even to alter the structure of reality itself. To flip from seeing the world as an external phenomena, separate and independent from the observer, into the inverse of the internalized reality. Read the book on my required reading book list, jadespharmacopoeia.com /reading /library /jadespharmacopoeia.com /blogspots /reading list. You're going to see Not a Beautiful Question, biocentrism. And this explains the science of how actually the universe is inside of you, and there is no external reality, and the true nature of things is beyond our human conception. At any rate, it's an internal phenomena. Okay, that's one of the very first stumbling blocks. The second stumbling block is that within us, there is a supercomputer. There is the first, I call it organic intelligence, not artificial. And artificial, what we're calling now, is not really artificial in the way that most people have seen artificial as computers and, Chat GPT and what else is out there? Like that thing from that movie by Jodorowsky. What is that movie? They've got that giant computer, you feed it all the information, and then it tells you what to do in order to keep control of reality. In The Holy Mountain, if you haven't seen that movie, The Holy Mountain, Alejandro Jodorowsky, the creator of the Beatles, wrote this movie that is crazy messed up, but it explains a lot of alchemical truths. And in it, they've got a giant supercomputer that they feed all the information that they can possibly get their hands on, and then it spits back out some sort of command. Go to war with these people, create this product, sell it to them, say this on national media, kill these people, give life to these people, bring resources. Like, it tells them what to do over reality so they can accomplish the things that they're setting out intent on doing, whether those things are good things or bad things. Here's the key. Here's one of the things. Just because you're a spiritual person, just because you have advanced metaphysical knowledge, does not make you a good person. It just makes you a powerful person, just like everybody else but it makes you aware of your power, unlike everybody else. You still have to go through the trials and the tribulations in order to reach the Garden of Bliss. You don't just snap your fingers, Thanos. At any rate, okay, so the second thing is that the first was that the world is internal. The second thing is that within our sentience, we have an organic intelligence which is not artificial, meaning it doesn't come from a third party conduit. It comes from your intuition. But this is another word. Intuition is another word for saying universal cosmic intelligence. And what that really means, like, this is the height of, I believe, understanding God, is that with us, as a part of our, quote, intuition, as a part of our sentience, there is a, a being, call it whatever you will, name it something personal to you. It doesn't have to be God. Frankly, that word is way overused. It doesn't have to be higher self, true self, Jesus, a lot of people call it. It doesn't have to be you can name it whatever the fuck you want, because names literally do not matter. The point is that directly integral to your soul is an all-knowing, omniscient, omnipotent being which loves you unconditionally and is giving you the information and the reality required to challenge yourself in just the right ways that allows you to continually evolve and unlock the next grandest image of who you truly are. But when I say these words, omniscient, omnipotent, all knowing, like, these are just little mere words. What does that really even mean? It's just like in the beginning of the Corpus Hermeticum. This is just like the beginning of the Corpus Hermeticum when Tot is like meditating. Excuse me. Tat is meditating and he's on the verge of sleep and he's asking earnestly, and all of a sudden this voice comes over him and says, I am everything, I know everything, I'm always with you. What is it that you want to know? Because this being is limitless. It knows everything and is constantly giving it to you at the level you're ready to accept it. Now, if you're here listening to me right now, for some reason, I've been absolutely convinced, and it's not something that can be done in language. But if you're here listening to me, that means that you're more than ready. You're more than capable of accepting this truth, integrating it into your life, and then beginning to undo the tumbling blocks of your mind as you transcend the cultural limitations into, what are we going to say, the all-knowing, into the Shekinah El. Okay? So there is an entity within us that knows everything. It's basically the creator of the universe, and it is always with us, communicating to us what we need to do. If only we would listen to ourselves. And so I feel like that is the second piece of information that people need to be aware of, because you don't need to be aware of the first in order to be aware of the second, but the second one is to me, kind of comforting, because both of them together are kind of comforting. I guess it doesn't even matter. But the main thing that we're talking about here is some form of perfection that exists inside of you that is teaching you. Okay? Intuition means inward teaching. There is a teacher within you that is sort of separate, but not really, and has everything that you need to come into awareness of your godhood. And the task at hand, I believe, for me, for the first 28 years of my life, was to come to the realization that everything is internal, and then go internal and become friends with this aspect of myself yet again. And that's what they're doing here. That's what God, or the Mother, Father, Son, the incorruptible purity, is trying to tell John here. I've come to teach you. I'm with you always. Don't you know who I really am? What is he going to teach us about what is, what was, and what will be? This means the present, the past, and the future. Okay? Within the world's literature about higher intelligence, which we sometimes call holy, there's always this concept of a perfect record of all the events to have ever taken place. In ancient Egypt, it was Thoth, who was the scribe, who was the transcriber of all events. In the Abrahamic faith, they have these tablets of destiny. Excuse me. That in the Mesopotamian traditions, they have the tablets of destiny. In the Abrahamic faith, they have this perfect knowledge before the fall of mankind that was given to Adam, passed down all the way to Enoch. In Hinduism, we have this concept of the Akashic record, or Indra's net, which was made popular, reinterpreted by the Theosophical Society. Rudolf Steiner, Madame Blavatsky, who extrapolated it on a lot. In modern times, we have a virtual reality hypothesis by the same man who created the Monroe Institute, who describes massive databases in the universe within consciousness which hold a perfect record of everything that has happened in the past. It is categorizing everything that is happening now, and it holds it's not a database, but it is a database. It's a database of all the potential probable events in the future. And this is basically a record of the divine timeline, as I talked about in Loki, which is a great series. You should definitely check that out. It tells a lot. But what we're really saying here is that we have access to a living holographic compendium of every single information transfer and energetic event to ever take place. And then it's been organized in such a way that it can cognize into the future. And it's like, you're doing this with you. This is what thinking is. This is a blueprint of how consciousness works. That's what all these texts are about God. If you're reading about God, you're only reading about your own higher self, your own consciousness. And what we do is we project ourselves into the future, and we live out a timeline, and we make certain choices, and we imagine or daydream about what our day is going to be. Now, the thing is, between you and between the entity which is all-knowing within you, is that they have a much clearer vision. And if you can communicate to this entity, it will share its vision with you. Call this a conversation with God. Ask it anything. It's basically a giant Google system that you can query through your attention and your intention, through your meditation, through your yoga, through the pranayama, through psychedelics, through holotropic breath work, through any practice which brings you into a greater state of connection with yourself. The key, though, is to query it. And we're basically living in a simulation. Language is the code. You got to set the initial conditions by posing the query and then allowing the simulation to unfold, which, if that's hard to imagine, just think about ChatGPT. Think about how you ask it a question, then it's like, spits out all these answers, okay? Because in the future, 5 years, 3 years maybe, we're going there now. It's not going to be like this. These are baby AIs. Eventually, what they're ultimately trying to do, Mr. Larry Page, Mr. Elon Musk, whoever the hell else is making AIs, is they're trying to, the elites in general, are trying to create an externalized mind of God. That's all that technology is doing. It is slowly recreating this omniscient, all-knowing being that is the Most High within us as an external phenomenon. and they're trying to mimic it. And this is what the beast is. This is what Satan is. It's the externalized version of all things that are true inwardly. And that is really the danger of AI. I mean, in truth, the AI, the artificial, the external will never, ever, ever be able to mimic what it truly is internally. However, it will get pretty damn good. Eventually, it's going to stop just being text. It's going to be audio in your ear. This is going to be how all movies are going to be written. This is going to be how newspapers are written. And the future is just going to be people that know how to talk to computers really well in order for them to get the feedback that they want, in order for the simulation to iterate and code out what your intentions are. These things really are only here to help us create and bring to fruition our own intentions. However, the creator of these machines is well aware of the nature of reality. Some of us are not, which is what brings me here to try to explain these kind of things, because if this were 200 years ago, and that's not that long ago. It's not that long ago. And I truly believe that there will be a saturation point where everybody becomes aware of this knowledge. And because of the fact that they enact themselves upon it, we will spontaneously create a new culture, a new system of governance, a new social system, which completely eradicates and outbuilds the other. It's like Buckminster Fuller said, you don't destroy the old, or you don't fight the current system, you build a new system which makes the old one obsolete. But luckily, we don't actually have to do any building. We just have to remove the inhibitions that have been set on us culturally. And so what they're really trying to tell us, imagine John, the incorruptible purity, he's like, I have come to teach you about what is. It's like creation, how it got here, what it's doing, how it's unfolding, what was the past. Imagine, if you will, for a moment, you had access to a perfect historical database. What would you go to? Where would you perceive? What would you try to figure out for yourself? Because surely there are some questions you have about history as it's been taught to us in school, as it's been relayed. You have questions about the present as it's been relayed to us by the mainstream media narratives. Of course, we're all going to want to know something. And this is what this knowledge leads to. It leads to you being able to do that. It leads to you being able to step foot into the time machine, which is your subconscious, and then go back and obtain ultimate truth over reality. And then what happens? And then what happens when everybody has ultimate truth over reality? Evolution begins. We begin our acquiescence. I don't know if that's where acquisition. We begin our acquisition of truth and evolution. And then this game really starts to take off. So the knowledge has been here for years. Like, this isn't new. This is an occulted Christian Gnostic text, which was occulted due to reasons of heresy back in the day. Nowadays, they're readily available and abundant on the internet. So they're not occulted anymore. We just don't see the significance of them because human beings would prefer the authority to tell them what's good. They don't want to have to use their own cognitive faculties to come and discover the significance of what this means. And so I'm taking the authority, God damn it. God save it, God love it. So God's going to teach us. This internal system of information processing, which is the subconscious mind, is going to teach us about how to time travel in order for us to understand the invisible world and the world that is visible. Okay, there are two realities. There is physical reality, five senses, hearing, smell, sight, taste, sound. Excuse me. Sight, smell, sight, taste, feeling. What is the other sense? Seeing. Eyes, ears, taste, smell, feeling. Okay, sometimes I lose track of my senses. But that's the physical world. Physical sense-based data attached to the body. But what do we know? We are not we are not only the body. The body is 0.00000 to the 42nd percent physical, and there's most of reality is invisible. It is non-physical. This is the non-material reality that is overlaying and interplaying with this one. And the reason why we fuck things up in life is because we don't understand the way reality works. This is science we're talking about here. David Bohm said it perfectly when he said, the first thing, when we come to act in accordance with the nature of reality, the first thing we'll notice is that we'll begin to get the results that we intend to get rather than the ones we don't. And that's a powerful statement, because how often are people intent on doing something but end up, doing something that maybe hurts somebody or what have you? You see? They say the intention is the only thing that really matters in God's eyes, but if you're looking at the eyes of the African children who are dying of preventable causes that as a direct result of neoliberal colonialism, then does the action really matter? I would argue that it does, and that in order for us to gain the intention, gain the results that we intend rather than the ones we do not intend, we need to come to understand the invisible world and the world that is visible. And then we will understand the governors, the immovable race of perfect humanity, which I realize in post-World War II era is a kind of like triggering thing to say for some people. But let's set aside our cultural traumas for just 1 second and understand that basically basically this entity which is within us appears to us all uniquely. It appears to you how you are ready to perceive it. If you don't understand what I'm saying, go read the Bhagavad Gita and they'll talk about the same thing. We're talking about an entity like Krishna on the battlefield, shows Arjuna his multifaceted form, and Arjuna is scared. And why is he scared? He's like, Arjuna, don't be terrified. Like, this is what I am. And that is, I think, what they're referring to when they say the perfect humanity. They're not talking about whatever the lower mind has you thinking they're talking about. They're talking about how essentially what most people would call angels can appear to us, and guides can appear to us and carry us forward into the reality in a more evolutionary and coherent manner. Okay, so moving forward, the immovable race of perfect humanity. Raise your head, understand my lessons. Share them with any others who have received the Spirit, who are from the immovable race of perfect humanity. And this goes against some of what the more the traditional texts have said. There's a big part of the programming that's like, don't share your knowledge. Don't cast your pearls before swine. Don't do this. Don't enlighten others. Don't talk about God. Don't let these people become aware of it. I'm here to tell you that's a part of the programming. And the only way we can truly evolve our minds and develop our souls and awaken to the totality of our own souls is to share the information. Information is the true nature of reality, and information is the sculptor's tool to rearrange the contents of the mind. And the mind is a prison if you don't know how to use it. And we're breaking out of prison. That's it. We're getting out. The invisible reality, it says in the Tao Te Ching, the 5 colors, they blind the eyes. The 5 tones deafen the ear. 7, 8 tones deafen the ear. The 5 tastes confuse the palate. What is the true, because what we perceive is not the true nature of reality. Any ocular scientist will tell you, like, the very first thing that happens to all the information coming through your eyeballs is it's inverted, flipped around, scrambled, put together somewhere else, and then projected into the back of, like, your brainstem or something, and that's how reality is generated. What we have is something that reduces the essence of ultimate reality into something that is manageable and work withable by primate-based life forms. But in truth, in order to perceive the real colors, the source of sound, the source of intelligence, the source of love, the invisible humanity, I'm going to start calling them the invisible humanity, because these are entities, these are egregors, these are thought forms which are moving around, which we consider our thoughts. They're not actually thoughts, they're multi-dimensional entities. They're hyperdimensional. And the more we can exist in that reality, the more we're going to have a true conception of what this reality is, because this physical reality is a subset of the non-physical reality, of the invisible world. So that's all I really wanted to tell you on this April 23rd, that the Creator is within. Know ye not that the temple of the living God is the body, and that heaven is in your midst? Heaven is another word for the invisible reality, for what is to come, for what was, for what will be. That was the prologue to the Secret Book of John. I'm JD Nicholas Jensen Denton. Thank you very much for putting up with me, for sticking around. Your presence is greatly appreciated. Have a grand existence.